Hello and welcome to the Art of Abundance podcast. Today I am interviewing Ike Allen. He's the founder of a company called Avaya, and you are going to have a lot of fun with this. In fact, I wanted this conversation to go on a lot longer than it did. It's probably around an hour all said, but it is so worth your time. This man has had an incredible journey, and we get to dive into not only his impressions and experience of what it means to achieve enlightenment, but also how does that show up in the real world? How do we live fully and freely, being ourselves, awareness, witnessing awareness? This sense that we are God. These are the things that I like to talk about, and it's really fun to hear about his journey as a father, as a partner, as a business owner, as someone who's making a difference in the world through his own unique perspective.
Yeah, the story of what I like to call the character, Ike Allen, small town Vermont boy, grew up with blue collar family. And, early in my life, early in my teenage years, I started I always felt like there was something speaking to me. Can we touch on sort of that spiritual realm of things?
Yeah, all
Okay.
about it.
So, really like both my parents, blue collar workers, both grew up on farms, one in Vermont, one in New Hampshire, very simple, wonderful, magical people. Their family was their lives. And we grew up with no religion, never went to church for anything. And I just began probably in my early teens feeling like something was I was hearing like, a voice, for a lack of a better term. It was more like a knowing, right? But that's not a language we use. It was like something was speaking into the knowingness, downloading into me. And I didn't have any background for that. So I was just sort of like, oh, this is interesting. So the years ticked by, and then I had read something about channeling and, the early days. I'm 48. So it's the mid 80s, and weird things started happening to little blue collar Vermont boy. And and it's just developed over time. Over the years, I started being like, oh, this is sort of like channeling. So I have this sort of this intuitive nature is clearly developed in me. And there's this channeling thing. So I started reading books and I started exploring it, and years ticked by and fading in and out and living life. And then 10, 11 years ago, I was in the restaurant business. I was a corporate trainer of a bunch of concepts and stuff. And I said, I want to make a film about, the Matrix had come out, the 13th Floor had come out, some other movies, Existence with a Z on the end had come out, all about the nature of reality. It was the early stages of that really becoming like true pop culture after The Secret. And I said, I want to make a film about the actual illusion of reality. Like, are we really here? I said, I want to make a film about this. So corporate restaurant guy decides he's going to make a film about this. So I get into that world. And then what happens is, while I'm making this one-off film, I stumble into this thing, A Course in Miracles. And I'm like, well, is there a film about A Course in Miracles? So then I said, wow, I could actually make a film about A Course in Miracles. And I said, well, if I'm going to make two films, maybe I could just turn my whole career into filmmaking. And so then the snowball, right? Years and years of what am I going to do with this weird spiritual thing that's happening to me, right? Like, we're talking 20 years of wandering around in something. And then so the snowball starts going, and it's like, wow, I can make films. I could be doing books. I could be doing courses. People wanted me to coach them. People wanted me to speak. So, right. I think it's that old thing. You ever notice how most overnight successes, I think Steve Jobs said it, you ever notice how most overnight successes took a very long time to get there? So, Avaya is still small compared to some of the big companies like Hay House, but it's probably because we just really do what we're inspired to do. When we want to do something, we do it. We keep adding to our library, and we do what we want to do. So here I am all these years later. I'll create a film here and there. I'll create a course. I'll do a speaking gig. But for every speaking gig I show up for, I probably turn down 20 or 30 because I just really kind of do what I'm inspired to. I get to the point in my life. I have two young daughters. They're my priority. My partner, Andy, she's magical. She's my priority. Sometimes sitting around burning through a whole series on Netflix on a Tuesday is my priority. And sometimes creating something at, as you know, 4 a.m. is my priority.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the character of Ike Allen, to today. So now here I sit today. I do what I want to do as I'm inspired to do it, and I don't do what I don't want to do.
I love that. That's a model that we could all follow and would like to follow. I think that we live in a world that teaches us that it isn't about that, that it's about doing what you need to make money, to build your business and make sacrifices. And you're talking about a completely different experience.
Yeah, I think I live my life. Now, I would not say that I'm an artist, and some people would. I call myself a hack artist. I live my life more like an artist. I have multiple films and books going on simultaneously. Some will never get done, right? So I have all these canvases scattered throughout the mind of my room, of my art studio. And I'm like, oh, I think today I'll work on this landscape over here, and I go work on it. And then tomorrow I say, well, put a blanket back over the landscape painting, and I go over here and now I'm working on this book or this course or whatever. So I really operate from inspiration. And I'm not saying it's the way everybody can operate, but for
Right.
me, it's worked. And a key component of that is, living from inspiration, but also it is partnership, which you and I talked a little bit about before. It's creating partnerships, but creating partnerships with people that are fun and don't take it too seriously. We do have deadlines. I do operate on certain deadlines, but it's creating a network of partnerships with other people that are fun to play with, other people that are entrepreneurs or up and coming entrepreneurs and up to things, and still living in a high level of doing what I'm inspired to do. Right. I think when we find what we're inspired to do, Janet Atwood, who wrote The Passion Test with her ex-husband, very good friends, Chris Atwood, it's about finding your passion. When we find, and everyone says it, but it sounds so crazy, right? Like, well, I can't do that, right? Because I'm working at the secretary at this place that I hate, but I've only got 8 more years and then I'm going to retire, right? Or I've only got 12 more years at the post office and then I'm going to retire and then I'll start doing what I'm going to do. I think if you find your passion and a great network of people to work with / play with, you can have a wonderful time and be successful and help others become successful because you're partnering with other people who are up to fun things.
I love so much of what you're talking about. There was something that you said in your backstory that I want to just understand a little bit better. And that is, did you say that with the channeling, the messages were coming into you? It wasn't that you were studying with certain teachers, or what's happened there?
No, it just started happening to me, and I've never studied with a teacher. People always say, is that like this technique? Is that like that technique? Do you know this person? Do you know that person? I don't even know most of the people. Everyone assumes I've watched every film, I've read every book, I've taken every course. People send me courses and books and everything through the mail all the time. We're receiving books in the mail, things like that. And I don't really know most of that stuff. I haven't studied the Indian gurus. I haven't studied the Boston gurus. I know who Ram Dass is. I know who Wayne Dyer is. I may have listened to some of their stuff or read something, but I don't, my whole model of spirituality and the way I live my life is to, and a great author who actually I have read his books because they're so funny. And he's another guy that's not known very well, Gary Crowley. He is a non-dualistic enlightenment author. And his whole model, which is the same as my model, is to take everything out until I can get down to just the essence. Instead of adding more and more and more to it, as far as my philosophy, I try to remove everything. I'm not interested in that person's technique and that person's technique. Maybe if I'm going to incorporate it, I'm interested in my technique. So, I do listen, right? I probably listen to more stuff than more people do because it's my business and I'm not at a job from 9 to 5 or anything like that. But I'm not interested in saying this is, overall, I do reference things, but I'm not interested in saying this is the pickle nickel technique and this is that. I think all that stuff's wonderful if it works for someone, but I'm interested in the simple essence. The channeling began for me, so that was my experience. There was a voice. It occurred as the voice of God, whatever that meant. It occurred as a single entity, a single consciousness. And over time, it started sort of stretching. And I totally understand there's a lot of mystical, magical, wonderful things going on and dimensions and yada, yada, yada. And in my journey, eventually what happened was the character Ike Allen, had that moment of enlightenment, horrible divorce, bankruptcy, legal issues, yada, 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 about 10 years ago. And what happened to me at that point was that the character Isaac Ike Allen died. And enlightenment, right? I say, right, and I don't say anything new. So, but I say that enlightenment isn't a journey from here to there. It's a journey from there back to here. God, awareness returns to the persona, which is why most personas are so afraid of it, because it's the end of identifying as this, as the primary identity. So my experience was, you would think I was, right, Harry Potter, living under a sleeping under a stairwell, spending a lot of time in there during my divorce and my bankruptcy and everything else. And there was one day where I truly let go of everything that was Isaac Allen. And I, as Isaac Allen, died. And there was an awakening, a rising up of, right, it was being born again. But the first thing that was born again was awareness, was what we call God. Awareness returned into me, and started looking around. It was a rebirth of identifying as God, not like I can, have superpowers or anything, but as awareness. I, God, reawakened in this vessel. And I always remembered as sort of like 15 minutes later, 10, 15 minutes later, Isaac awakened. And that's when I started really going by Ike after I adjusted to it. Because when I say I, most of the time, I mean awareness. And it's not intellectual. I'm not pretending that I'm awareness, but I really believe that I'm Isaac Allen. I am awareness. My primary identity is awareness, and I am the bus driver now. And Isaac sits in the back, and that's why I go by Ike. It was sort of a distinction shifting to Ike of Isaac. It was, let's say I sort of put it in place. I don't think I needed to remind Isaac that he was never the primary identity. But this was about 10 years ago. And the thing about it is, it's way easier to sit in the back of the bus, right? When you pay to go on a tour with a tour company, you can be one of those people that it's like, man, this is so easy. And now they're telling me to go here, and now they're telling me to go there. Or you can be one of those people, now bleep this out, that just bitches about where the tour guide is taking you, and bitches about the drinks, and bitches about the lunch, and yada, yada, yada. Or you can say to yourself, man, this is so easy just sitting in the back of the bus. And that's how I live now. I still occur to my children as their father. I still, right, I go back to my hometown in Vermont, and they still think I'm a persona, like they think that's what I really am. But I know what I really am is I'm God. I sort of live on Earth like an alien, right? I'm from another world, and I've assimilated, and I act like I'm a human to blend with the other humans. And there is a part of me that is human, right? That persona is still there. But what I really identify is awareness. And the beauty of identifying as awareness and not being afraid to let go of primarily identifying as the persona is that life is so easy. Opportunities come all the time. I mean, endless. I don't jump on every opportunity. I actually don't jump on a lot of invitations and things because I just do what sort of resonates with me. It's so easy when we live in the awareness of what is, because if we're here to be an author, then it leads you in there. You become an author. If you're here to start a business and import, export plastic dolls from China or something, it just steers you into it. It's so much easier when the persona as the primary identity of Isaac Allen fell away. My life is so easy. I mean, Andy will tell you, Andy has her master's in nutrition, and she'll tell you, like, I always operate with, safely low blood pressure. I barely ever get rattled by anything because, I mean, if something happens to my kids, I will play the role of diving into action. But life is so much easier. And the business deals that we do are so much easier because nobody takes it seriously. Yeah, I mean, not too seriously. We all do things. We create products. We have a lot of fun together. I create some beautiful stuff, but I don't take myself seriously. I don't think I think I faded more out of the spotlight after awakening because I was no longer obsessed with becoming a celebrity or getting my recognition or anything like that. I sort of faded away and started creating the things that were really appealing to me, and the friendships that were really appealing to me, and the partnerships because they were fun. So yes, channeling led to the awareness that I was that voice. Who I really am was that voice all the time. And business is better than ever for us, and I don't really know most of what goes on.
Do you ever forget the awareness?
Do I ever forget well, it would be like saying, like, forgetting who I am again. I thought there would be more of that. I being as awareness, I thought I could get lost again. I thought I could forget. And it seems like it's a possibility, but it hasn't happened. I
Hmm.
guess, right, it's God itself, it's awareness itself saying, how could I forget about myself again? I mean, I've already done it once. I sort of think, right, the game is to, right, when a child is little, right, they're God, they are awareness, right, everything centers around them, they're the top dog, it's all about them. And then we teach them as humans, which I think is just part of I call it the human amusement park, it's just part of the game of life, to forget that you're God. And then I think we spend the rest of our lives trying to remember it, right? And I think that's what happens with a lot of people in business, because a lot of what we talk about is enlightenment in business, is that a lot of people forget, and they start to take it too seriously. They forget who they really are, and they start taking things too seriously, and they have to get, right, that I have to become a big corporation, and it's not about teamwork, and it's not about partnership, and I've got to get everything, and I have to have as many people working for me, making money for me, and I don't really care about them because I'm so afraid that I'm going to lose it all. But what enlightenment has I mean, think about the people that you would look at and say are enlightened. Like, look at the Eckhart Tolles and, people like that. They're not really walking around stressed. And Eckhart's worth millions and millions of dollars now. And yes, he has other people helping him, probably people helping him that are really stressed. But the people that I look at and go, oh, I get what that is. I get what that is. I see myself. I see awareness over there. I see a reflection over there. They're not really stressed. I think when people wake up to the truth of what they are, competition, I mean, look at the planet we live on. It's filled with water. Maybe it's salt water, but we know how to remove the salt. Look at all the land. I lived out west for a long time. There's a lot of vacant land out there. There's a lot of open land. There aren't too many people on the planet. We don't have a shortage of water. If we wanted to end all pollution and everything, we clearly could. There's areas that have removed most of it. Look at companies like Subaru, how they recycle virtually everything. It can be done. And it only takes one thing, and I call it the awareness of what is. Now, right, again, I didn't make that up, but the awareness, when one gets present to the awareness of what is, everybody has enough. There's tons of open everything waiting for us to work together to create it, whether it's an online course or a car. There's no shortage of anything here. And it's going to be a long time before there's a shortage. What the only thing that there's too much of maybe is lack of awareness, right? With awareness, we say we can't pollute the oceans anymore. With awareness, we say we have to clean up the water. With awareness, we say we have to do what's best for everybody, right? Because if I step on 10 people on my way to the top, there's a chain effect down there. It's going to hurt those people. And if it sounds woo-woo, I don't talk a lot of woo-woo stuff, and it's perfectly fine if people do, but we affect everybody else. We just do. We affect everybody else. I mean, Spider-Man, let's go to the guys listening in and well, I'm 48. So any women that relate to it, right?
Yeah.
The old story of Spider-Man is Spider-Man didn't stop this guy that he could have, this burglar, and the burglar turns around and kills his uncle. Spoiler alert if you don't know anything about Spider-Man, right? He's been around for a long time, since before I was born. But
Yeah.
everything affects everything else, and you can see it from everything from comic books to science fiction to Harlequin romances. When we all wake up to the truth of what we are, everything is much easier, and it's fun. We become like kids. You can put 50 kids in a room and they play with each other, and you say, Johnny, quit smashing Susie with the Tonka truck, and Johnny will be like, oh, well, if I want to stay here and be part of this group, I need to quit doing that. But we don't operate like that as adults. Why don't we remember it's way more fun to play in the sandbox with everyone else than to kick everyone out of the sandbox and own the sandbox and charge everyone $50 to go to the sandbox and squelch all their dreams and blah, 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 blah. It's all fear-based. And when we let go, I cycle around again and again. When we let go, it's just fun to play in creating, prosperity, abundance for everyone.
So, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was how does this work? So, with the mind, this enlightened, aware mind, how does it work when you're working with other people who may or may not have that same view as you do? Like, what does it look like to navigate business partnerships? I think both you and I know that the potential for win-win is here now, but I'd love to see how your mind navigates relationships. Someone new comes into your life. Is it pure trust that only the right people appear? Is there no discernment? I mean, tell me the juicy stuff there, because I think it's going to be really helpful for me and hopefully for everybody listening.
All right. So just like many things, we could look at on different levels. On one level, yeah, when someone shows up into my orbit and it feels right, it probably sounds ridiculous to some business people, but if it feels right, then I do it and it works out great, regardless of how it works out. So that is my big picture. If the product collapses, if the project collapses, if it doesn't finish, I just go, oh, well, apparently that was what was supposed to happen. Now, I'm not like building a skyscraper and it's left half unfinished, but it doesn't matter how much we plan, right? When the market collapsed, take a look at Vegas, right? There were a bunch of skyscrapers sitting there, hotels half built, and some of them have been scraped. So I think that's a good lesson. Even if you think you've got it all figured out and you've done all your research and you know everything about companies and countries and da 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 da, in my opinion, the universe still does what the universe does. So plan away, right? And adjust accordingly. Now, on a practical level, in this day and age, you can look around on the internet and find out a lot about people, right? If I want to know what Ike Allen's up to, I can Google Ike Allen. Now I think we all have to take a good look at that, right? Like if we go to buy something off Amazon and it gets a 4 out of 5 stars or whatever, I think that's the rating system. We do have to read who gave it a negative thing, right? And you read some of those, you can research, right? You read some of those reviews and it says, I couldn't get the plastic off the product. It's like, well, everybody else got the plastic off the product. So is it really right for you to leave a 1-star review because you couldn't get the plastic off the product? So we have to take a look at that. But you can look around in this day and age, right? You can look, you can ask people, right? You can connect with people and ask them. If you're a restaurant, you can look on things like Yelp, right? And say, what are they up to? If you're looking to do a partnership with someone in business, say, could you give me a few references, or look at who they communicate with on Facebook, or look at if they've partnered with other people and then email those people and see if you can approach them. Oh, well, I created this product with Joe Dispenza. Well, maybe if I email Joe Dispenza's people, they'll tell me what it was like to work with Ike. Maybe they won't, but maybe they will, but you could do that. And then I think, going like, if it feels right and it's fun, right? It's like your friends. You have friends that are fun to drink with if you're a drinker, right? And you have friends that are fun to do, to play sports with. And you have friends that are fun to just talk with. So in the business world, if it feels right, I think everything can be worked out. And I think there's a level of, I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I think there's a level of, there are systems to put in place, right? And there are agreements. There's absolutely, a reason to do agreements where, okay, Billy and Bobby are going to do this agreement and Billy's going to do this and Bobby's going to do this, and they have dates, and there's probably templates you can download on the internet and courses you can take in how to work a partnership. So I think there's many ways. But at the end of the day, for me, the question from the very beginning is, no matter how good the deal looks, does it feel right? And that's it for me. If Deepak Chopra comes to me and says, Ike, let's do this deal and you'll get this and this and this out of it, I take a look at it and then I step back and I actually say, does it? What I really say to myself is, because I believe time happens simultaneously. That's my experience. My consciousness sort of exists outside of time and yet in time as a whole. So I step out and I ask myself, did that happen? I sort of look at life as we're reviewing it, the observer effect, we're witnessing it happening again. But if one doesn't believe in that way, one could say, does this feel right? Does this really feel right? And then one could check in and say, well, if I'm saying it doesn't feel right, is it because I'm afraid of succeeding, right? It's just being in the inquiry of questions. This deal with Deepak looks really great, but it doesn't feel right. Okay, is that really true? Or is it that I'm just afraid of becoming successful, being in that inquiry? So there's many different ways to come at it, but I think if it feels right. And then if a person puts things in place to assure that we have an agreement of what each person's going to do, then it'll probably work out great. If I think when people jump at deals because it looks like a good deal, but they're not really getting a feeling of what it's going to play out like, it's usually really hard. And even if I make money, I have some products that I make money at, and I would have probably preferred, if I could step back in time, to remove them, because I'm so obsessed with joy and having fun in what I do. It doesn't mean I'm not working a 14-hour day, but I'm so obsessed with the experience of freedom and joy that some of my projects turned out to be a real pain in the da-da-da-da-da. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so many infinite possibilities and people to partner with and great things to create, that why do something that doesn't feel right from the beginning? But that's me, and I'm a weird feeling kind of guy.
Well, I mean, so one of my mentors is Holly Riley. I don't know if Andy told you this, but she really helped me. I mean, my backstory is there was a lot of trauma growing up, and as an intuitive, empathetic person, I learned early on to turn that feeling off, like many people. I was really
Yes.
good at numbing it down and
Yeah.
turning it off. And Holly helped me, even though I'd been meditating for many, many years and studying Buddhism, which is what I went to after I faced a family tragedy and kind of had that moment that you described. But I would describe it as everything fell apart, and I at least knew where to go next. It wasn't like the sky parted and I got clarity. I got clarity that I could actually make a difference if I did something other than what I had been doing. And that began a journey of this past 17, 18 years. But the feeling piece is fascinating to me because I started teaching meditation, I studied Buddhism, and I will right here sit and tell you that, granted, I know I had blocks about feeling, but even all these years of long retreats in mindfulness did not awaken the feeling until later on. And I feel like there's so many different stages or ways that one can go about enlightenment. And I do firmly believe that awakening feeling has been the most tremendous transformative experience of my life. But I'd love for you to talk, because you did say you had trauma, and that awakened something. But my journey has been very different, where it's been events that have occurred over a long period of time that would give me enough to know that I was on the right track, but it wasn't a spontaneous moment in time like Eckhart Tolle describes, or like what you described. So I'm all over the map, but I think I'd love to just know what's coming up for you, because I want to create space for people to see that we're all on different journeys, but we're all going to the same destination.
Boy, you're fun to talk to, because you are all over the place. You're right on course and you're all over the place a little bit. And I think that's life, right? Like, we have just demonstrated, whether it's pre-enlightenment, right, or the illusion that one is not enlightened, and then the awareness that one is enlightened, right? Right. It's the idea that here's the topic. This is what enlightenment is. Read my book and I'll tell you what enlightenment, right? Like, saying that, it makes perfect sense that it would be that way, right? Because, for example, there's only one book on parenting, right? Because there's one way to parent. So thankfully, there's that one book on parenting. We all read that book. We all raise the perfect children. They grow up. They love us forever. They respect us. It's just a walk in the park, because there's only one way to raise a child. So I think that's the same thing about enlightenment. And it's taken me years as awareness to sort of like, even in enlightenment, there is the continuous revelation within being awake as, God again down here in the world. It's not over yet. There's still these fascinating things to get. And one of my favorite jokes is that, right, enlightenment is this, or this is how it is obtained, or this is how a persona is re-attained by enlightenment. And now read this book, and this is how it is for everybody, right? This is how business is for everybody. This is how enlightenment is for everybody. This is what your experience will be post-enlightenment, right? Like, this is how it is. Now, I would say that my experience is very, very, very similar to people like Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie and well, let's just go with those two, right? Because most
Yeah.
people know who those two are. But then there's people like Timothy Freak, this wonderfully magical British guy that he was reattained by the awareness of what is when I think he was 9, and you'd have to look him up to see it. It's Freak, Freke. He's just magical and wonderful. And it started for, he was reawakened when he was 9. So his experience is very different. And he has way more years back in the experience of planet Earth than this thing does, than awareness does over here. So he's having all these different interpretations about what enlightenment is as enlightenment. Enlightenment itself keeps looking, because enlightenment is born again, and it keeps looking and going, wow, that enlightenment itself is interpreting experiences post-enlightenment. Right? And so we get wrapped up in saying this is enlightenment, or it's going to be this, right, like spontaneous combustion experience, right? There were many things that had built to Ike Allen. It wasn't, it was a spontaneous moment. It was the most horrifically painful experience. I passed kidney stones as Ike Allen, and let me tell you, this was a billion times worse. It was the most horrific experience. I'm not saying it has to be that way for everyone, because that wasn't Tim's experience, but for people like Byron, Eckhart, me, others, they'll tell the story that it was horrible. But if one was willing, if that's a path to enlightenment, and one feels called to that path, then suck it up, and go through the psychic burning away, not real burning away, right? Everything changes. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. There's nothing that has to happen. You don't have to be in a coma in a hospital for 6 months. You could be under the stairs. You could be on a park bench. You could be lying on the floor or something. I think Byron was like in the attic at a woman's shelter or something,
Yeah.
But so there is no way that the experience is. And then I think there are people that, I think there's experiences. Why would enlightenment itself want to keep having the same experience? We, the personas of the experience of Earth, are each having our own experience. Everybody's having their own experience. I have 2 daughters, Brielle and Ava. They're both having their own experience. They're secretly enlightenment, right? God, awareness, but they're having their own experiences. And even awakened enlightenment itself has been my experience of talking with some other people that just occur as a mirror to me, right? It's like I'm just hanging out with me, but it's me consciously having a different experience than me. The layers and the levels of it go. And then I think there's people like what you're talking about that are, right, having these moments of enlightenment, and it just keeps rolling over and rolling over and rolling over. And I don't think there's one way to enlightenment. I don't think there's one spontaneous moment of enlightenment. I think enlightenment is an opportunity in every moment, and it occurs for different personas. Awaken, fall asleep, awaken, fall asleep. And that's not even bad. Remove that kind of judgment. I think enlightenment itself is revealing, reminding a persona, or reminding itself within that persona, maybe all at once in a split second, and maybe it's rolling in and out in a symbiotic relationship with that persona. The danger is, and even when I awareness reawakened, I got the tendency to say, like, this is it, right? Let me create a new religion, and this is it. And then I sort of settled into it, and I thought about all the other aspects of me I had interviewed in the early days, and I checked back in with some of them. I had some powerful support, recognized people when I was going through my divorce and everything that were like, I had some big names, some big players. Some of them aren't that good. Some of them are phenomenal. I had some great people around me and some great awake aspects. And I recognized that their interpretation as enlightenment, and enlightenment itself, its interpretation as enlightenment was different than my interpretation. And I started to think, okay, even though I am awareness itself, perhaps awareness itself doesn't have the same experience every time it reawakens in a persona. So all that being said, did I in any way, shape, or form answer your question?
It was really, really good. Thank you. I love it. I mean, I love it because how often do we get to have these conversations, right? I mean, you might have them all the time, but I have them in my mind. So
Right.
I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah, this is my life. This is what, I coach people in. And that's not like a coaching pitch or anything because I don't do much coaching, but this is what I talk about because this is my favorite topic. And it's right, it's so hard to talk about it because, right, it can seem like, what did that guy just say? Like enlightenment with an enlightenment and folding and enlightenment and like what? It's magical. It's beautiful. This conversation is the conversation of the awareness of what is. And then everything that we do with the awareness of what is the interpretation. And if we don't get bogged down with the interpretation, that's where the real fun is. There is one thing as it occurs. There's one thing that occurs as everything. And when we don't get wrapped up in what is the right thing to do on Sunday or what is the right thing to do on Tuesday, if you want to follow a tradition that's Christian and vegetarian, great. If that's what resonates with you, then that is your path because you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a fundamental Muslim and that is your path and you are not forcing other people to be your path because it resonates with you and you understand it doesn't mean that's right. That's the tangled hierarchy. That's the what is it Walt Whitman says, right? Do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am vast, I contain multitudes, right? There are so many experiences of the experience of enlightenment itself. When we let go of the idea that, right, there's one experience, then we can interact with other experiences, like not intellectually, of ourselves. Imagine truly beyond the intellectual ideas interacting with another experience of ourselves and being like, wow, we are the same. Like there's no talk of being something different. We are the exact same thing. And we're creating a product about singing bowls or something. Whoa, that's awesome. And now like I have like weird side little ventures that I do about like creating a toy. My daughter Brielle is 12 and we buy things off eBay. We bought fidget spinners months ago before the market got saturated. And we talk about business and she goes to school and she sells them. She buys them for $2 direct from China and she sells them for $5 and she makes money to spend on whatever she spends it on or saves it on or whatever. Like, wow, amazing, like amazing. And someone says fidget spinners, what the hell is that? Or someone says fidget, oh, that sounds horrible, buying stuff on eBay and helping your kid learn how to sell it. And kids, ooh, yuck, and da 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 da. And I don't say you're wrong, I'm right, kids are the greatest thing in the world. I say amazing, you hate children and you're so happy you didn't have kids. That's amazing for you. And can you understand that what's amazing for me is I love children and I love doing business deals and I love doing business. See, this is it. I love creating products and doing things with people that it's fun. It's not really about the money. I mean, right, the money is part of it. It's a secondary thing. But when I do something that's freaking awesome, like selling fidget spinners or creating a $97 course or something, and it's fun to create, amazing, wow. And they think differently than I do, and we're two reflections of the exact same thing. And boy, wouldn't that boggle my mind if I thought about it too much. But if I don't think about it and I just be in the awesomeness of you occur like you're over there and I occur like I'm over here, and we're doing this fun thing together, wow, wow.
Do you do this in your coaching, or I'm really curious, like how does this show up when you're working one-on-one with someone?
Well, it depends where they're at, right? If
Beautiful.
I was in the restaurant business for years, so I waited tables for years. I bartended, then I was in management and corporate, yada, 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 right? But so let's go back to the days of being a waiter, a waitress, a server, whatever we'd like to be called, right? Because everyone wants to be called something different, right? I'm a flight attendant, I'm a this, I'm a that. So when I approached the table as a waiter, I couldn't walk up. I'm a pretty darn happy guy, even, back when I thought I was a human, primarily. I'm a pretty fun guy. So I walk up to the table and I couldn't be like, hey, everyone, how's it going? Man, are we about to have a good time? And, I had to notice, were they dressed in black? Is it possible they've just come from a funeral? Have they just lost something? Have they just lost their job? So I usually start out, right? I try to, get a taste of where they're at. What are you at? What are you up to? And where are you trying to take this? And this is, you talk about being intuitive. That's one of those big things, right? Everybody's intuitive. It's just whether or not, right? How much have they closed the lid? Learn to be intuitive. It's really easy. Lift the lid off. Now that's the way it is. I'm just going to declare that's the way it is. You want to learn how to be intuitive? Quit pretending you're not. Right? So we approach a table and we say, okay, what's going on here? We approach a client. What's going on here? Where are you trying to get to? Okay, well, how fast do you want to move this along? And if I feel there's an opening, then I get more and more goofy. I get more and more serious. I get more and more in their face. I try to keep them inspired. I give almost everyone real things to do, not like, now go think about that, sit on a stone and think about that. I think that's all wonderful, but when one believes they are actually in the form world and they identify primarily, without pretending that I'm a magical blue light, and that's wonderful too, but without pretending, we need to be honest about what is. So if a client says to me, well, it's all an illusion, like I've watched your films and your courses, it's all an illusion, so it doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, but I don't feel that you really believe that. So I try to approach them where they're at, and I try to give them practical things in the form world so that when they come back a week later, a month later, some people I talk to every 3 months or 6 months, I try to give them something that they can see a result in, because people do like to see a little bit of result. Even if they're trying to let go of all their worldly possessions, it's nice to come back and tell me they cleaned their closets out. So I approach everyone based on where they're at, and then I see how extremely silly and goofy and challenging I can get for them.
What's there's there's absolutes, and for some reason it's coming to mind, where everyone's on their own journey. They're going to go do what they need to do. Why get involved? Like what connects you to other people and wanting to help them, knowing that we all have this enlightenment that's just right there. So they're going to figure it out sooner or later. It may or may not be in this lifetime if somebody believes in that piece. What causes you to want to be out there?
I think, if people know Kenneth Wapnick, he was the editor of A Course in Miracles, at least one version. And it's interesting, in that world, there's a lot of arguing and fighting over, right, waking up to the truth that we've always been safely at home. And there's a lot of fighting in that. I love the drama of that community in their pursuit of waking up. But Ken said to me, I said, so Ken knew, right? Hanging out with Ken was hanging out with me. It was a void meets a void, reflecting back and forth. Like Buddhists talk about the void. It's like awareness. Okay, now let's, turn the mirrors like this away from each other, and now let's pretend. And he said to me, it's just what I would do. Like, what else would I do? I don't know why I don't really believe there's anybody to wake up. I don't really believe I'm even out here in this world. He said, but this, right? So this is, right, the resonance. This is what one is inspired to do. He's like, this is my most natural expression. I'm a coach. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a father. We can easily find a storyline, right? In the planet, in the TV show of Planet Earth, there's always a storyline how everything happened. And the truth is, like, what else would I do? What I am is goofy father. What I am is, I would say powerful, and I don't use that lightly or promotionally or anything. I am powerful at what I do just because I am. So I do it. If someone has a real powerful intuitive ability, it doesn't mean they could be like an accountant and they use it in their accounting. But my most natural expression is this. I don't believe there's anybody to save. And I am having the experience of being here. And I am having the experience of being good at this thing. And I am having the experience of people approaching me and saying, hey, can you coach me or, help me with this, yada, 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 yada. So I do it because I don't know what else I would do. I used to do a lot of seminars, and if anybody that still follows me to some degree or whatever knows, like, I barely ever do a seminar anymore, because it was just like, I don't really want to do seminars anymore. So I just quit doing them. Yeah, I am fortunate enough in the storyline of my character that I have multiple streams,
Mm-hmm.
multiple channels of doing things. So people will be like, wow, you did like all 14 of those books in 6 months. And then you're like, what happened? We thought there was going to be 40 books. It's like, I said, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. Wow,
Hmm.
where's that film was going to be coming out. The third part of the trilogy of the Tao of Quantum Physics was going to be coming out. What happened with that? Like, I don't know. It's under a canvas over there. I just do what I'm inspired to do. There's really nobody to awaken except the one. And the one is the one in each person that's hearing my voice right now and the person that's not hearing my voice. And this is who I am today. This is who I am at the moment. I'm this thing talking about this concept of enlightenment, and in 1 hour I will be picking two girls up from a 4-hour dance camp, and let me tell you, we will be doing pirouettes while we play horse basketball, because one of my daughters in now I am basketball guy, I am pirouette guy, and then Andy needs to be romance guy, or silly guy, or tickle her guy, or help her prepare dinner guy, or right? We all wear many masks, right?
Mm.
Shakespeare. I mean, my God, Plato. These men were brilliant, and there's plenty of brilliant women too. They didn't really, in the storyline of life, they didn't really get the chance to speak, but there's plenty of brilliant people back there that knew life is a dream. Here's my thing. Life is a dream. And I'm not talking hypothetically. I'm not talking intellectually. You are all in a dream. And that is the best news you are ever going to get. You are in a dream. And the question is, are you living your dream? And if you say no, or you feel no, and you're trying to pretend it, I'm not saying run out and quit your job. I'm not saying leave your husband, your wife, your horse. I'm saying get honest about what is. You're in a dream. It's like the Matrix. You are in a dream. Now, if you choose to say, I got it, but I just don't want to think about it, cool. But if you hear this, you are in a dream. Are you living your dream? Be honest about what is, and start taking a look at how you can live your dream, not our dream, not our dream, not Eckhart Tolle's dream, not Bill Gates' dream, your dream. And if your dream is to be an artist, then damn it, go buy some paintbrushes at the dollar store and some watercolors and paint on your living room wall. You know,
Woohoo.
if
Yeah.
you sense that there is more to do, this is the moment to do it, or to begin planning, so that within the dream of life, you don't lose your house, lose your job, da 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 da. Get honest about what is. Life is a dream, and are we living our dreams?
Hmm. I have to ask you this one last question. How does struggle fit into this?
If it shows up, that's how it fits in. If you're seeing struggle, must be it's time to overcome adversity. One of the most powerful authors in my entire life, the first interview that I ever put in the can that changed my life, the most influential book of all time for me until I was probably about 30, was The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. And he was the first big fish for me that said yes. I emailed him and I said, hey, Dan, like, I'm a nobody and I'm going to make a film about the nature of reality. And you were the most influential book in my life. I'm a total goofball, dude, 10 years ago, right? Like, I'm this goofball. And I think that you should let me interview you. And he emailed me back probably 10, 15 minutes later and said, here is my home number. Call me. I want to do this film. And I got on the phone with him, right? I got on the phone with him and he's like, Isaac, because I was going by Isaac back at that time. He's like, I want to do this. This is important, yada, yada, yada. All that, you say, where did I go about adversity? Here he comes back. Dan Millman talked a lot about adversity. He had a lot of challenges in his life. If you actually read the book, the movie, of course, addresses 2 of them or whatever. But if you read a few of his books or something, he had a lot of adversity. He was a gymnast, right? Like, think about the right, the challenges, the adversity, the damage one does to themselves, the challenges. How many times does someone think Dan Millman did this particular routine on a trampoline? Once? Do you think he did it once and he was like, woo, champion, right? Do you think he did it twice? Do you think he did it 100 times? Do you think he did it before he won? How many times do you think he met one challenge? And this is good because Ava and I, my 9-year-old, were on the basketball court last night while my other daughter was playing soccer. And I was saying to Ava, how many times do you think you have to make a layup before you master it? You know, how many times do you think, and she's just started a league a few weeks ago, how many times do you think you're going to have to stand at that foul line and make that shot before you master it? You know, I said, Ava, it's probably going to take 1,000 times at least before you master it. She's like, what? I said, you're probably going to have to shoot from that foul line 1,000 times before you master it. Now, it might be more than that, and it might be less than that, but I don't blindly go it. I don't lie to myself is the point. I don't live in a world of it's all perfect and there will be no adversity or challenges or obstacles. I live in a world of it's all fine and there will be days where I get my ass kicked. Right? There will be days where I sprain my ankle. There will be days where I'm outside in the North Carolina heat and I'm approaching heat stroke or something, right? There will be days where the car breaks down. There will be days where my mind, and this honestly is not really the case for me, but let's pretend like it is for a second, where my mind tells me I'm a loser, I'm unworthy, nobody wants to partner with me, nobody wants to do business with me, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to write that book, I'm never going to create that course, I'm never going to make a plan to get out of my job and my this and that within 2 years. And here's the thing. Adversity is part of life. Take the frickin' basketball, go up to the foul line, and shoot. And it doesn't matter if you miss. Get the rebound, right? Redo it. Get the rebound, go back to the foul line, and do it again. Get the rebound and go back to the foul line and do it again. And just feel what starts to happen by the third time you try to write your book. And then do it again. Start writing again and feel what happens the fourth time you sit down to write the book and feel what happens. What is beginning to happen through the challenge and actually then taking on the challenge, right? We all have challenges and many of us run from them. Take it on. Zig Ziglar, right? He wrote, Meet You at the Top, I think it was, 1 page a day. He said, I just have to write 1 page a day. You've just got to take whatever that basketball is, whatever that challenge is in your life. Step 1, accept the fact that there will always be challenges. Pre-enlightenment, post-enlightenment, pre-millionaire, post-millionaire, pre-50 pounds overweight, pre-perfect shape. There will be a new challenge. Life is not about overcoming all challenges. It's about living a life of approaching challenges and taking them on and not even winning. I have products that sell freaking 2 copies a year or something probably. So what? I also have other products that sell a lot of copies a day or, downloads a day or DVDs a day or yada, yada, yada. So life is about challenges. It's not about saying when I, get a blue pony or when I wake up or when I blah, 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 I won't have challenges. You will have challenges the rest of your life. The opportunity is to look at them differently. Perception, look at them differently and say, I go into my daily life saying, what will I be challenged today and how will I deal with it, right? I mean, and it's a fast conversation. It's about 1/100 of a second for me. Will I confront it? Will I marinate on it? Will I stuff it down and pretend that it's not there? And I think a lot of people stuff it down and pretend that challenges should not be happening or I'm going to pretend like they're not there. And we've all watched plenty of TV and movies and books and seen friends in our lives and maybe even our own lives where what happens when we stuff things down, how we all know it works out really great when we stuff things down and avoid doing what has to be done. So how do I deal with challenges? I accept the fact that there are challenges. I determine if I really want to take the challenge on. And if I do, I take it on and I just one shot, 1 page, 1 call, 1 email, 1 invitation to partner with me, no, go to, I always remember someone very, very famous in, my genre of the new age, new thought world. And I emailed him in the beginning and I said, very, very, very well-known guy. And I said, hey, we're making this film and we'd like to put you in it. And the email came back and it said, he is unavailable for the next 9 years. And my first thought was, wow, isn't this interesting? Now, if Oprah called him right now, is he unavailable for the next 9 years? I don't know if he'd be unavailable for Oprah, but I don't let things get me down. So I put it on my calendar, and 9 years later, it popped up on my Google Calendar, and I had transferred it over from Microsoft or whatever, and I sent him an email. I sent his organization an email and said, hey, now we're working on this film. And would you like to be in this film? It's been 9 years. I thought maybe he had an opening in his schedule. They did not get back to me. They did not get back to me. But it's another way I deal with adversity. I look at the humor in it. And I get it. They could have just said, you know what, you're a small fish and he's huge and he gets invited to do all kinds. They sort of didn't want to hurt my feelings or whatever it was that they were up to. But it's like, I had a good time with it. I thought it was funny to email him all those years later.
Oh.
Hey, it's been 9 years. I referenced the previous email. I was like, it's been 9 years. I thought maybe he had an opening in his schedule. I assume it was like an FU behind the scenes, but that's the thing. I don't think there's, for every one of that particular person, there's 10 more awesome people to do things with. And here's another little secret. If you're in my genre or really any genre, it is wonderful to get the famous person in the genre that you're trying to build your business with, because that name recognition is da 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 da. And you might sell something with that name recognition in there. But and again, that Andy and I in Avaya, we do a lot of cross promoting with people. We do a lot of promoting of each other's products and working together on things. We often get much better results from up and comers because they're hungry and because they want it and because they're actually willing to work and play and create something with you than the big fish that, their name is on there, but they're not going to promote it for you. They're not going to reference it. They're not going to do anything. You've got their name and that might sell. But when you get an up and comer, they're hungry. They're hungry and they're up to playing. So you want to know great people to partner with? Up and comers that are hungry, because not only will they work for you during the launch of the product, they will work for you in 3 months. Sure, I'll send another email out. 6 months, 12 months, yada, yada, yada. When they're hungry and they appreciate you helping them, you've got a lifetime partner. And then as you all come up, you have a spectacular network that just grows and grows, not just for Avaya, not just for our media company, but for you and for you and you and you and you and you. Yep. Oops. So adversity. I think I answered the question in 20 different ways.
This has been so much fun. Like when Andy suggested we talk, because she's on my podcast, I was like, sure, sounds great. But this has been pretty special. What can listeners do to connect with your work? Like, I just really, really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know other people listening are doing the same thing. So it's coming from all of us. Like, how generous, just so generous of what you shared with us today. And I really, really appreciate this. And I hope that we can connect into what you're doing and share back with you.
Absolutely. Well, are you putting a link on the bottom of your podcast or whatever?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm not going to tell anybody, because this way you'll have to go down or over that way or over that way. Go to her site and click on the link that she's provided you. And that's how you'll find out where I am and what I'm doing and all the secrets at Avaya. Because you won't be able to figure out how to spell it. So it's easier to just click on the link. I suggest clicking on the link.
And it'll be on YouTube and iTunes, and you'll go to wealthclinic.com on the podcasts and you'll find this one listed. So you'll be able to see all of those details. And
there it is.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And everybody that's in the world of marketing or afraid of marketing, see, there's a lesson. Working together to support other people. I'm not even going to mention my domain name so that I'm supporting other people. We're creating a teamwork. We're creating a community. We're working together. We're playing together.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, there it is.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.